Okay, so we have been working on telling time in math, and we've been working on reading our clock and using a number line to help us with our telling time. And now we're starting to work on solving some problems using time. So let's take a look up here. Let's say that we have Patrick, who finished some chores at 5:31, and Lily, who finished some chores at 5:43. Now, I know that Lily finished after Patrick, because 5:43 comes after 5:31. That we do know. But I'm really curious to find out how much longer it took her to do her chores than it took Patrick to do his. I could use my number line right here to help me solve this and figure this out. What I could do is I'm going to start by labeling my number line. And remember, we label it with a 0 on the first mark and a 60 on the last, okay? So I'm going to label that, and then I'm going to label my hours. So I'm going to start with 5 and 6, and then I'm going to label my 5-minute intervals. So if we look at my number line, you can see that I have my 0 right here in my hour, 5 o'clock, because that's the first hour that I have. And then I end at 60, and I've done my 5-minute intervals. This looks like all of our other number lines. So in order to find out how much longer it took Lily and it took Patrick, I need to start by plotting their points onto the number line. So I need to find 5:31, and I need to find 5:43, and I need to plot their times. So to find 5:31, remember we start at 5, and I'm going to move my finger, and I'm going to count until I get there. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and then I know I'm going to need some little tick marks for my ones. So when I'm at 30, then I added on my 4 little marks for my 4 ones, so then I'm at 31. So there, I'm going to label that with a P for Patrick. Now, I also need to plot where Lily would be at on the number line. And Lily's at 5:43. So I'm going to start at 5, and I'm going to count till I get there. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Now, if I go to 45, I've gone past it. So I'm going to start by adding my little 1 marks. So at 40, then I count 41, 42, 43. So I'm going to plot the point for Lily and label it with an L. Now, what can I do? How can I use this to help me figure out how much more time it took Lily than it took Patrick? I could count by ones from 5:31 to 5:43, but that might take me a while. There's got to be a better way. I mean, we're almost in the middle of the year as third graders. There's got to be a better way than me counting all these ones in between here. So I could instead maybe try to count by ones from 5:31 till I get to 5:33. I could count my hills and my mountains, and that to me is one of the easiest ways to do it. So remember from our other lesson, our hills are when we're counting by ones, and our mountains are when we're counting by 5s. So I'm going to take my Patrick point, and I'm going to count by hills until I can get to that big tick mark, and then I can start counting by mountains. So I go 1, 2, 3 little hills, and I write my 3 up there, plus 3. Because it took me 3, so 1, 2, 3, actually 4, I'm sorry. So I'm right, plus 4. Now I'm at a big mark, a big tick mark. So now I can use a mountain. So then there's 5, because remember, mountains are worth 5s, hills are worth 1s, mountains are worth 5s. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4 mountains, and that are hills, and that gets me to 5:35. I count 1 mountain, that's plus 5, and now I'm back to hills until I get to this point. So I go 1, 2, 3, plus 3 more. So if I take 4 plus 5 plus 3, I know that equals 12. So it took Lily 12 more minutes to finish her chores. And that is certainly one option. I can count my hills and my mountains, or my 1s and my 5s until I get to my points. I could also, because this is in the same hour, because they're both happening at 5, I could do something else. The great thing about math, boys and girls, is that there are all these different tools. So I could take 5:43 minus 5:31. And this way only works if both of my times are in the same hour. And I can subtract them. Well, 3 minus 1, I know that equals 2. 4 minus 3, I know that equals 1. So again, 12 minutes. I got the same answer either way. Maybe I prefer to count backwards. I could do the same thing, but I could have started at 543 and counted backwards to 531. Maybe I could have said, okay, if I make a 10, that and then add 2 more, I'll be there. The great thing about math is that there are all sorts of different tools that you can use, the one that works best for you. On this one, I counted my hills till I get to a big tick mark and then my mountains. Let's take a look at another one. I start with my timeline again. This time, let's say that we started math at 10:15 and we worked for 23 minutes on it. What time did we end math? Well, I'm going to start by plotting my points where I started on my number line, 10:15. So I go 5, 10, 15. And I know I worked for 23 minutes. So I'm going to add on 23 minutes. So I can do this a couple ways. I can start by saying, okay, I can count by 5 so I get to 20 and then count on 1. So I'm going to do my hills and then my mountains. So I go 5, 10, 15, 20. I can't do any more mountains because that's going to take me to 25 and that's too many. So now I'm going to add my 1s and I'm going to count my 3 hills because I'm at 20 and I need 23. 1, 22, 23. So there I have plotted my point where I ended up at. And so if I look, I'm at 35, 36, 37, 38. So I know I'm going to finish at 10:38 if I started at 10:15 and worked for 23 minutes. I could have, because this is in the same hour, taken 10:15 and added on 23. But again, this only works because it's going to be in the same hour. If it was a different hour, it wouldn't work. So 5 plus 3 is 8. 2 plus 1 is 3. I bring down my 10. Again, either way, I get the same answer. Okay, so I've got a new timeline here. Again, you can see where I'm at. You can see it looks just like all of our others. But this time, let's talk a little bit about maybe, reading. Let's say that Leslie is reading at home. And she starts to read at home at 11:24. So let's plot that point on our number line. So there's 11, 5, 10, 15, 20. Oop, I'm going to need some 1s. 21, 22, 23, 24. So I'm going to plot that point on. And let's say that she finishes at 11:57. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. If I go to 60, that's too many. So let me add on my 1s. So 55, 56, 57. And I want to know how much time went by between when she started reading and when she stops reading. So I'm going to do this a couple ways. I can start by counting on my hills and then my mountains. Remember, hills are worth 1, mountains are worth 5. So I'm right here at 11:24. So if I go 1 hill, that gets me to a big tick mark and I'm ready to do mountains. And then I put my +1 above it so I don't forget that that's worth 1. And now I'm going to count my mountains until I get right here. So I go, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mountains. Got me there. Well, each one of these are worth 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So I add on my 30 minutes. But I'm still not to my point, am I? So now I have to add on some more 1s, or hills, as we say. So I go 1, 2. And if I add 2 more on, 2 more hills, I get to my point. So then all I have to do is say 30 plus 1 plus 2. Well, 30 plus 1 is 31. Plus 2 more is 33. Again, could I have taken 11:57 minus 11:24? Let's try it and see if we get 33 minutes. 7 minus 4 is 3. 5 minus 2 is 3. There you go. Either way, I get the same answer. So if you cannot add or subtract if it's not in the same hour, then we need to draw a number line and count our little hills, which are worth 1, and our big tick marks, which are worth 5, or big mountains. There's going to be some pages for you to practice and then an assignment for you to do. If you have questions, make sure you reach out to Mr. Rusherai.